Dear friends, welcome to another episode of Geopolitical and Military News. In this video, we will talk about the Kobasna ammunition depot in Transnistria, seen by many as the largest in Europe and which may explain Putin's great interest in that separatist region of Moldova. In July 1992, after almost 2 years of separatist war, communists from the Moldovan region of Transnistria, supported by 15,000 Russian soldiers from the 14th Guards Army, managed to expel the small and poorly equipped Moldovan forces from that region, with the separatists declaring the foundation of the Soviet Socialist Republic of Moldova there, a nation that, despite not being recognized by any other country, has the support and protection of Russia, which has maintained thousands of soldiers in the region since 1992. The purpose of Russian interest in that area is not very evident, but the answer seems to be in the small village of Kobasna, just 2 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, where the Russian military presence in Transnistria is headquartered, with a force estimated at 2,000 soldiers, with a single mission, to guard and maintain in safety ammunition depot number 1411, considered by many as the largest in all of Europe. This depot was created by Stalin on July 28, 1941, just over a year after annexing Bessarabia and northern Bukovina, which belonged to Romania, as a result of a pact signed in August 1939 between Hitler and Stalin, which divided Eastern Europe between them. For almost 2 years, Hitler and Stalin were allies, but on June 22, 1941, Germany broke the alliance, attacking with a force of almost 4 million soldiers. Stalin hurried to reinforce his defenses, and one of his measures involved the creation, in July 1941, of a gigantic ammunition depot in Kungur, a location quite secure many thousands of kilometers from the front line. During the war, that depot was responsible for supplying weapons and ammunition to millions of soldiers of the Red Army, with Stalin ordering, in July 1945, after the end of the war in Europe, that everything be transferred to the Odessa region, in present-day Ukraine. Several years later, in May 1949, in response to the founding of NATO, a massive alliance that at that time encompassed 12 countries, Stalin ordered that all those munitions be sent to new facilities in the village of Kobasna, which at the time belonged to the Soviet Socialist Republic of Moldova. Stalin's goal with this change was to prepare for what he saw as an inevitable war against NATO, concentrating thousands of tons of weapons and ammunition in Kobasna to be used in case of conflict. During the Cold War, Soviet leaders increasingly filled that depot, reaching an incredible mark of over 20,000 tons in 1990, with the defense of all that being the responsibility of the 14th Guards Soviet Army. So when the communist extremists of Transnistria started their separatist war, that Russian army declared support, with Russian soldiers effectively going to war against Moldova in early 1992, already after the collapse of the Soviet Union, with more soldiers and, above all, with more weapons and ammunition than the newly created Moldovan army. The rebels, thanks to Russia's support, managed to expel the Moldovan forces, with the 14th Russian Army establishing itself around the Kobasna ammunition depot. There is no official data on the amount of ammunition still present at the site, but various sources point to about 20,000 tons, equivalent to over 500,000 152mm artillery munitions, the standard caliber of heavy Russian howitzers. Just to give an idea of what that number means, 500,000 152mm artillery projectiles correspond to what Russia spends in Ukraine in 5 months of intense combat, that is, only in Transnistria. Putin has ammunition to continue fighting for another 5 months without worrying about buying abroad or producing locally. However, despite the installations being under the direct control of Russian forces, there is a major problem: how to get there, since it is a region literally squeezed between Moldova, with a 100% pro-Western government, and Ukraine. The only way for Putin to ensure freer and more direct access would be through the annexation of Transnistria, in a process similar to what was done for the annexation of Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson in Ukraine in September 2023. With the annexation of that region, Putin would be able to mobilize a local army to be trained by the 14th Guards Army in Kobasna and armed with the thousands of tons of weapons and ammunition stored there, with this army being responsible for advancing on the important cities of Odessa and Mykolaiv, cities that Putin and Medvedev recently said would be annexed. The first step towards this annexation may have been taken on Wednesday, February 28, after the Transnistria Congress requested protection from Russia against what it called Moldovan economic pressure. According to that Congress, Moldova, which is the rightful owner of those lands, is suffocating Transnistria with the purpose of regaining control over the region. If Putin reacts favorably to this request for protection and if this debate evolves into a formal request from Transnistria for annexation, Putin will have a clear path to use all that huge arsenal to open a new combat front, just at a time when Ukraine suffers from a terrible and chronic lack of ammunition. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now to support us, and leave your like. Until next time.